Hey guys, so we're continuing on with Virginia Civics and Economics, Chapter 3, Section 1. And if you have this textbook, you are more than welcome to follow along. So the section we're talking about, its SOL standards are, describe how an individual becomes a citizen of the United States. So the vocabulary in this chapter is citizen, naturalized, alien, and representatives. So just to review and sort of place you in the right location. The last section we talked about the social institution of government, why we need it, how government holds us accountable, how we learn how to participate in government. This section we're going to go further to that last point, how we learn how to participate in government. And we're going to talk about the basic political unit of citizenship. What is being a citizen? How does it help you participate in government? What can you do as citizens to participate, and how can you become citizens? So before we start, you need to pause this video right now and think about this following question. Even talk to your parents about it and write your answer on your piece of paper. So the question is, you may not at the moment think that what goes on in government affects you. However, that is not necessarily true. I want you to brainstorm now how government may affect you either directly or indirectly through your parents. Talk with your parents about this and write your answer on a piece of paper. So I'll give you two examples to start you off in this brainstorming. Government might affect you directly by, for example, your relationships with the police. So say you do something wrong and the police are extra harsh on you. That's the government affecting you directly. But the police being extra harsh on you might be an indicator that your rights are not being protected for whatever reason that they're not being protected. So you have an influence on that. Indirectly, through your parents, just think about what they take home from work in terms of money and grief and all that. Your government influences what they take home from work, and that influences what you deal with at home. So talk to your parents about this. Write it on your piece of paper, please. So to continue on with this, a citizen is a person with certain rights and duties under the government. Some rights you have are right to an opinion, right to protection under the law. Some duties you have are the duty to obey the law and pay taxes. And believe it or not, in all these points, I don't know if your question answers would have come up with these answers, but believe it or not, in all these points, the right to opinion, the right to protection under the law, they are things that you will have to directly deal with at your age right now. And you also, at your age, have a duty to obey the law. And your parents have a duty to pay taxes. And they all affect you. It's a little cop. So, the definition of a citizenship and citizen defined by the Constitution is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America defines it as all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States in the state wherein they reside. And you can think of this as simply if your location of birth, if you were born in a hospital in Prince William County, if you were born in a hospital in Fairfax County, if you were born in Virginia, by definition of that birth, you are a citizen of the United States. And you are subject to the state in which you're living in. So if you move to New York, you're subject to New York laws. If you stay in Virginia, you're subject to the laws of Virginia. The subject to jurisdiction thereof means simply that you are governed. You have to obey the laws of the state in which you reside, in which you're living in. So basically, if you can answer yes to one of these questions, you are a citizen of the United States. Again, we're talking about the social institution of government and how you can participate in it. And the first step, really the basic step, is to be a citizen. So we're talking about how you become a citizen, what you have to do. So to be a citizen, you have to be born in the United States or United States territory. You have to have at least one of your parents as a United States citizen. You have to be naturalized, which means you have to be chosen. You have to have chosen to be a citizen of the United States? Or you were less than 18 when your parents chose to be a citizen of the United States? And again, if you just answer one yes to any of these, you are a citizen. So, as we've sort of talked about before, means of attaining citizenship is by birth and naturalization. And we'll talk about naturalization a little bit more. So, naturalization, what does it mean? So, you start off when you enter this country, without being naturalized, without being a citizen. When you enter this country first, you're called an alien. An alien is a citizen of one country who lives in another country. Aliens cannot hold government office or vote. It'd be like, say, if Plutonian, someone from Pluto, came to Earth. You wouldn't want that alien to be able to control what the government does to you, really. I mean, they have no idea who you are. They have no idea what your nation's culture is. They are aliens. By definition, their citizenship is in Pluto, and they decide to, come over and hang out here on Earth. So to become a citizen, the things you must do at the bare basic level is to become a citizen through the process of naturalization. To become a naturalized citizen, you must demonstrate both knowledge of American history and the ability to read, speak, and write English. That's the basics of what you need. So take a moment, pause this video, and I want you to take a moment to just sort of think of the answer to this question. What message do you think the following graph says? So now you should click and see the following graph and then pause, or let the video run, see the following graph, and then pause. So the basic answer to that graph is immigration and naturalization, particularly in the 20th century, have led to an increasingly diverse society. And what answers I would expect from you is that you see immigration coming up and increasing and increasing and increasing as you get to now, 20th century, 21st century now. And so what that increase in immigration does is it means we have more people in the United States from, Europe and Asia and South America and Africa. There's more people coming here and coming here in increased numbers. As a result, we have more diversity in our society. And in a way, you can think of it as, actually an interesting thing about this is that right now, you may think that, whites are the predominant race, that, Caucasians are the predominant ethnicity. But actually, we're nearing a point pretty soon where, the combination of African Americans, Asians, Hispanics, people from other countries that are not Europe, is actually more than the Caucasians, the white people in the United States. And so we're becoming that diverse that the original settlers outside of the Native Americans are becoming the minority ethnicity. The other thing that you need to think about is that everybody in America at some point in some time is an immigrant, even Native Americans. No one can trace their origins completely and 100% back here. Even a couple thousand years ago, Native Americans are thought of as immigrating from Asia to the United States. Finally, second to last slide here, if you're a naturalized citizen, you have all the rights of a regular citizen. But the only thing you cannot do is you cannot be president or vice president. Finally, if you're a citizen at all, you can choose to give up your citizenship voluntarily. Or you can have dual citizenship by accepting citizenship for another country. So you can be a citizen in Spain and Mexico and the United States at the same time. And finally, you can have your citizenship taken away for treason. Basically, treason, what it is doing something against the interests of the United States that severely impacts the interests and well-being of the United States. And that's a little bit of a hard standard to prove in the court and law for punishment, but it has been done in our history before. So if you're a naturalized citizen, you can't be Barack Obama. And as you can see, this cat is doing something in direct contrary to the interests of that particular government, of the king. The cat's becoming the king now. And finally, the office of the citizen. And this is perhaps the most important slide of this whole presentation right here, this whole movie. So, power in our democracy, in American democracy, in this government, is based on the idea of consent of the governed, which means you as medical students, have the power to decide what our government will and will not do. And remember in this case that at the very beginning of this presentation, I have actively encouraged you to think about, how the government might be influencing you even now. How might you as middle school students be influenced by what the government does? And I'm going to drill home this point even more by saying you have the power as middle school students to change this government for the better, to change it to the way you want it to be. Even if you want to just sort of fundraise for Relay for Life or something like that, there are government issues with fundraising, with volunteering, that you have the power to influence as middle school students right now. There's government issues with education, that if you're not happy with our education or what teachers have to deal with on a daily basis, you can influence that. You have the power to do that because you are a citizen. And one of the ways your parents have the power to influence the government, and you will eventually have the power down the road, is by electing representatives. And this is the idea of representative government that we talked about before. So people who are representatives are people who are chosen to speak and act for us in the government. You can think of this as, if you're the local butcher, you don't exactly have the time to read up on every single issue in government and make an informed decision on how to vote. So you basically say, I hire you to make those decisions for me because I like what you say, because I like your attitude, because I like where you want to bring this government. And as a result, because you are effectively hiring them for this job, you can also fire them. You can stop voting for them and vote for someone else, especially if you don't like what they do. And also as a result, because you can fire them, these representatives are very interested in what you think and what you have to say. The problem is that they cannot act until they see enough clear indication of the attitude of the people who voted for them. So, you can't just go up to them and say, I think that, my parents need more money, because I want to buy an Xbox. That won't work. But if you get everybody in Virginia to sign a petition to the governor saying taxes are too high, that has a good chance of working, because the governor is seeing, hey, people who voted for me, people who hired me, actively desire this outcome. So I'm going to try to make it happen for them so that they can vote me in again.